Shifra Hendrie is the founder. 1 second. There we go. Sorry. She's the founder and director of the Gate of Unity. As a spiritual mentor, teacher, transformational coach, and healer, she has helped thousands of people around the globe to experience profound and lasting shifts through her life-changing programs based on the mystical wisdom of authentic Kabbalah, spiritual blueprint for creation. Shifra grew up in Minnesota in a secular Jewish family and was herself an agnostic, although very attracted to spirituality of Eastern religions. After a mystical encounter with the Lubavitcher Rebbe, which convinced her beyond a doubt that there was a creator and that her choices mattered to him, she moved to Crown Heights, Brooklyn, and began a Torah observant life. In 1991, while living in Crown Heights with her young family, Shifra's life and worldview were changed forever when she heard the Rebbe's call to do all that you can to bring Mashiach now, in a manner of the infinite lights of Tohu within the vessels of Tikkun. Since that day, she has been passionately driven to find ways to make Geula real, not just on a global level, but on a very personal one as well. Currently, all her coaching, speaking, and teaching is focused on how one can achieve the level of awakened consciousness, intimacy with God, personal freedom, and even access to miracles, all of which is part of personal Geula. Shifra, we're very excited to hear your words today. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for inviting me. It's so interesting that the person who spoke before you, the name shows up as becoming divine, because really that's a lot of what it's about. So there's really too much to share in the time that I have. So I'm going to ask Hashem to really help me bring out what is most important for everybody here and for me. I want to just start with, if we could take a moment. I know we've been in prayer, but if we could just take a moment, everybody close your eyes and just get centered in your body. Feel your breath. Nishima, Nishama, the breath distributes the oxygen, oxygenates the blood, and the blood, Hadam hu hanefesh, distributes the soul throughout our body. And the soul is continuously moving in and out of the body faster than anything we could imagine, going back to source, wants to merge. The soul does not want to be in the body. Essentially, it wants to merge back into Hashem. And yet Hashem imbues the soul at every nano instant with his desire for his purpose, which is a dwelling place, der batachtonim, to be revealed, a dwelling place in the lowest worlds, meaning in us, in our lowly human experience, in our turbulent physical existence, in our confused, sometimes often, minds and certainly hearts. That's where Hashem wants to be revealed. All of the Torah and mitzvahs are on behalf of that. The beginning of the Torah, it says Ruach Elokim Merchabes al Pnei Hamayim, that the spirit of Hashem, of Elokim rather, hovered on the face of the water. And Rashi says, Zeruch Hashem Melech HaMashiach. This is the spirit of Mashiach. The world was created for the end result that we're looking toward now, that we're moving toward now, that we are essential parts of now. The Tanya says that each one of us, the souls of Israel, are channels. Literally, imagine pipeline between heaven and earth. So what comes down into the world and what goes up from the world, as the world elevates and Hashem reveals, that depends on us, each one of us. And each one of us is just a piece of those 600,000 core souls that are those core channels. But we must take it seriously. We must take it seriously, because if not us, then who? And so I want to move into a thought about leadership. I think a lot of people are scared of the word leadership because we don't see ourselves as leaders. What's a leader? You know, a head of a country, a big rabbi. But leadership starts with being who you authentically are. So just ask yourself for a moment. You may still have your eyes closed. Mine are opening and closing, but who are you really? Like if you go deeper than your personality, and I grew up in this house and I'm good at this and I'm bad at that, and you know, I have low self-esteem, I have high self-esteem. Go a little deeper, you know, your deeper self that keeps coming in and out of your body on behalf of a passionate desire to connect to God and to reveal God's intention in the world, a world of heaven on earth, no sickness, no death, no jealousy, no competition, no war, no hunger. But it's even deeper than that, because how do you reveal God within the physical world? What does that even mean? just want to leave that question in silence for about 15, 20 seconds. And maybe we can each ask ourselves, what would that feel like or look like? Beyond like the movie version where we have the Beis Hamikdash and Hashem kills all our enemies. And, we have the trees grow giant fruits. It's something way deeper than that. And the hint is it's really about becoming divine. So let's just connect with that for a moment or two. Just the question, sometimes you don't have to have an answer immediately. When you ask the question, the higher part of your mind starts to do a search. And it has access to information that your everyday mind does not necessarily have. So what does it mean to be divine? What does it mean to actually experience God within you, not just around you? What does it mean to have a world of heaven on earth? What does it mean for God to have a dwelling place within you? What does it mean to truly be partners with the Creator? Not just like a servant. That's just stage one. But an actual partner. The Rebbe says ultimately that we will not be a relationship with Hashem, and this is totally revolutionary, but our relationship with Hashem ultimately, what he says, I'm quoting, I would never dare say this on my own, it's not going to be mashpia and makabel, but rather two rulers, like the sun and the moon originally were two rulers in the same sky. The sun went down. The moon complained. You can't have two rulers, two separate rulers in the same heaven. So God made the moon small and sent it down. That's the Shekhinah. The Shekhinah, the source, the Shekhinah is Knesset Yisrael. It's the source of the souls. So souls went down. But ultimately, the soul, like the Shekhinah, comes from the essence of God. Chelik Elikam Imal Mamish, the Tanya says over and over and over again, that the Jewish soul, the soul of Israel, is literally a portion of God's essence. And then the Rebbe up and adds, when it comes to essence, you can't even say portion because essence can't be subdivided. I know this might be like lofty for some, but just let yourself be with it, because this is where we need to go. I'm leaving that silence. I said I would leave for a few seconds. Just see what this brings up in you. Good, bad, in between. Remember to breathe. So the Rebbe in 1991 said, if you're connected with Chabad, you know this already. If not, you might not. But he said, I've done everything I can to bring Mashiach, to arouse the people to do what they can to bring Mashiach here and now. And all I can do now, it's been Hevel Arik. It was empty and nothingness because we're still in Gullus. And all I can do now is to give it over to you. And may it be God's will that we find among you first 10 stubborn people, from the stiff-necked people in a positive way, who will not stop until we prevail upon Hashem to bring Mashiach now. May there be found among you 1 or 2 or 3 who will know what needs to be done and how it should be done. Okay, so with that foundation, which I actually didn't intend to bring out, but this is a holy group of women. I don't normally speak to groups from women, Torah-based women who are so into prayer that you'll get up early in the morning and do that on a daily basis, or even a now and then. So it's really important that we understand that it's time for us to step up in a new way. It's time for us to see ourselves in a new way. There's a leadership vacuum. 30 years ago, the Rebbe said this, 31 years ago. And even though many people have done many things, there's something about leadership that hasn't happened. There's something about B'srat Geula, the message of Geula, and it's not just a superficial message. Mashiach is coming now, but what does that mean? The Rebbe said it's incumbent upon every person, every human being in our generation, because this is the Tzav Hashah, this is the call of the hour. This is our destiny. This is the healing for the universe. That every man, woman, and child must learn everything possible about Mashiach and Geula in a manner of Chachma, Bina, and Das. What does that mean? It has to be real. It has to be above you, that's Chachma. It has to be integrated into your left brain, that's Bina, and Das is where it becomes part of your everyday consciousness paradigm shift. You see the reality of God and Mashiach operating in the world all the time, and therefore you speak it, you share it, you live it. People see it on you, they see it through you, and then we can, like Naomi is doing, like many people are doing, create opportunities to share in a bigger way. Okay, that said, again, which I didn't intend to say, but I think it had to come out. So on the 3rd of Nissan, Parshas Tazria, 1989, Memtes, the Rebbe said an amazing sikha that I don't think is very much learned. I've learned it and taught it quite a few times. And in that sikha, he talks about how every Rosh Chodesh Nisan, there, just like every Rosh Hashanah, there's a completely new influx of divine light. The decree for the world comes in, like Hashem goes into a state of, I don't know how much this is familiar or not familiar to people, but I'll just do it quickly, that Hashem goes into a state of dormita, a kind of trance. He removes on the night of Rosh Hashanah his light from the world. It's like he takes a step back to wait to see what is our new relationship going to be. We're not operating on the past anymore. We're not doing the same old. What's it going to be now? And he waits for the morning and even the evening when we say, we daven, we ask Hashem to be our king. The morning we blow the shofar. And again, we say, Divrei Malchus, we daven for Hashem to rule over us. And then Hashem, finding us, the vessel, hearing our desire, meets us with an entirely new level of fresh love and light and potential. That happens in Rosh Hashanah, but that's in the natural order of the universe. And the things that happen during the year come from that. But then there's Rosh Chodesh Nisan, which according to many perspectives is really the beginning of the year. It even says that in the Torah. And Rosh Chodesh Nisan, the Rebbe said, brings every year an entirely new level, an influx of divine potential, godly potential for miracles and redemption. This comes from, if you view the world like a playing field, God created the world in 7 days, 6 days. And it's like a playing field for what? For man to operate, to become partners with Hashem in changing things. So the first thing that we did to change things was to create a horrible fall. That's part of the process. It was all meant to be. I'm not going to go into that now. But that is in order that we can actually incorporate the darkness and the evil within our own beings, within the structure of the human story, and transform it, bring light to it, because the deepest light is hidden in the darkness. So on Rosh Chodesh Nisan, we have this influx of light that's connected to Yaakov Ubanav, to Jacob and to his descendants, which is us. And the Rebbe explains that for over 3,000 years of 3,330, 34 now, that there every Rosh Chodesh Nisan, there has been a huge flow of new potential for miracles and redemption, given to whom? To us, to our souls, the souls of the Jewish nation, the souls of Israel. And we all know that it's b'schus nashim tzidkanias, it's the women that always have taken the leadership, and that, the Torah says it will be us again. So you're here for a reason. Each one of us is focused on redemption for a reason. We have a role to play. So what is that new? If you imagine that every year you're getting a truckload of presents or a wagon load of presents, but they're going into the garage. You don't even know what's in them. You haven't opened them, and they're piling up and they're piling up and they're piling up and they're piling up and they're piling up. Once you open those presents, who even knows what's in there? And those presents, that idea of the presence is like this influx of life, of light and life, a spiritual gift, spiritual powers, godly powers that we are meant to use to change our lives, to change our relationship with Hashem, to change our bodies, to change our relationships, to change the level of influence that we have with ourselves, with our families, with the world at large, in order that we can take this project home. We can take this birth process home. So it's up to us to integrate it, to use it. First, we have to know that we have it. Unfortunately, tragically, the story of the Jewish people has been incredibly traumatic and still is, even though now we have access to living in Eretz Yisrael. Now, like the Rambam says, the first stage of Mashiach, he says, don't let it rise, even don't let it occur to you that Mashiach is in Yemos HaMashiach, we're going to have supernatural miracles and so forth. Although he does say in another text, later text, that we will have supernatural miracles. But the first stage of redemption is that we will not be under Shibud Malchus, will not be under the control of the nations anymore. And that is the case now. There is no place in the world where Jews can't learn Torah. In fact, I heard Putin kashered the Kremlin many years ago when Rabbi Lazar was speaking there and when Netanyahu was coming. Unfortunately, Netanyahu didn't care about the kashrut, which is something to think about. But the nations are now ready. But what's the problem? when a fruit gets too ripe, when it's not picked and it's not eaten at the right time, it starts to rot. And we're 31 years since also the Vilna Gaon talks about the time of 1991, that general period when it's time for Yemos HaMashiach. We are in Yemos HaMashiach, and we have been for some time. But we're meant to do something with that. It's a different avoda. It's not the avoda of being subservient to the nations or worrying about what the US thinks. It's the avoda of standing up and taking leadership. Actually, another very fascinating idea from the Rebbe is that in every generation, the place where there are the most Jews, the largest portion of the Jewish population lives, that always is the world superpower. When that country is stupid enough to kick the Jews out, they fall apart. Mitzrayim is an example, although they didn't kick us out, we left. Great Britain, another example. Spain, another example. Now, I'm trying to remember, 2000, somewhere in 2000, I don't remember the exact date, but I heard the statistics said that by a small margin, the largest population in the world now of Jewish people is in Israel. What's been happening to America since then? It's falling apart. What's happening to Israel? Israel's the world superpower, but Israel, the Israeli citizens, because we are not our authentic selves, because we are not standing up as Jews, connecting to the core of our souls and that leadership that we're meant to take now, other people are taking it over. There's always a force and counterforce that, the Zel Umat Zeh Hashem created, force and counterforce, good and evil, in order to bring out our deepest self. The purpose of all challenges and obstacles is to bring out the miraculous, the supernatural powers of the soul. So what else did the Rebbe say in the Sikha? He said, because we have gone 3,300 and whatever years with this new influx of new power every single Rosh Chodesh Nissan, it is time for us, well past time for us, that we are now not only supposed to pray for miracles, but we're supposed to make miracles. And the Rebbe emphasized this over and over again in the Sikha, that we make miracles by our teva. He kept saying by our teva. And he said, even though it says in the Torah, Ein somchen ala nes, you're not allowed to rely on miracles, you are obligated to rely upon, to use everything that is part of your teva, everything that God gives you to serve God and to change the world, to bring about redemption. And therefore, now that we have miraculous power within our beings, we are obligated to use it. And then the Rebbe talks about how that works. And basically, he sets up that there is a correspondence between our nature, an individual's nature. Like, it's not my nature to be, speak in public. It's not my nature to, it's my nature to get up late. It's my nature to, I'm talking about myself. It's my nature to, whatever. And this is my nature and this is not my nature. This is who I am. This is not who I am. This is what I can do. This is what I can't do. And the Rebbe says that every time he talks about the idea that when we review the historically, it was customary to, I'm sure as many people know, to review the Gemara, chapter in Gemara 100 times. So when someone would review 100 times, he was called a person who wasn't serving Hashem. Why? Lo avdo. Because avoda actually means to take something and to make it something better. Avoda means to work with something, like to work with a piece of leather, to make it, to tan it, to make it into a purse, to make it into shoes. We're always supposed, that's what tikkun is. Same thing, tikkun is to create potential, to take potential and turn it into something that works, something that's useful, something that serves the purpose. So learning, even if you're doing everything the right way, if you're doing good things, you're doing your best, that is a level that is lo abdo. You're not really serving because, you're keeping a level, but that's not what we're meant to do now. We're meant to change. We're meant to transform. We're meant to reveal. So the Rebbe says that when a person who has a certain custom, a certain habit, including a certain self-image, moves even one drop beyond that, takes a step that he or she has never been willing or able to take before, go beyond the nature, whatever that means. So from 100, 101, once you review 101 times, now you're in to use other language. I think sometimes it's really important to use other language, which I do a lot in my teaching, because we use the language of the Torah. It's like kind of goes in the same old grooves. It's 100 times. We want 101, let's call it quantum. When you learn something 101 times, when you take a step beyond your nature, when you do that thing that you thought you couldn't do, or that was way out of your comfort zone, or even a little out of your comfort zone. So you wanted to do it, but you never did it. You're already stepping out of the boundaries of nature into the boundaries of miracles. And Hashem reciprocates. Our consciousness does influence reality in giant ways. This is not just a secular subject, although I have to say that I'm sure everybody's heard of the law of attraction by now. The secular world, because we have not taken the leadership, I'm not trying to make anyone feel bad, but we just have to be with the truth now. We can't stay in this situation. Bad things are happening for a good purpose to wake us up, meant to bring out our supernatural essence. But because we haven't delved into the depth of the Torah, primarily Hasidus, I say authentic Kabbalah in my bio because I speak to non-Jews and non-religious Jews, all the time, but it's Hasidus. We're talking about Hasidus, particularly in my case, Chabad Hasidus. Hasidus from the Baal Shem Tov on is called Torah Shel Mashiach, Torah Shel Mashiach. It's the messianic, it's the redemptive Torah. It's the depth of the Torah. It's a foretaste of the new Torah Chadasha, She'iti Tetzeh, that God says in the time of redemption, the new Torah will come, leave me and go to you. And this is a Torah that affects our insides. It activates powers and a consciousness within us that allows us to be who we're here to be. We cannot just cling to the past anymore. I think when things happen, the Jews tend to kind of hunker down. I have this strong tendency in me also to hunker down and just to try to barricade ourselves because the world is scary and it's hostile, and we're wired for trauma for every generation for thousands of years. Somebody said to me once that she thinks that the Jewish people can be like any Jew has the potential to go from comfortable and complacent to run in an instant, because our history is full of that. Our history is like that. But we're not meant to hunker down. We're meant to lead. We're meant to change our own nature, step a little beyond our nature, and then Hashem will change things as well. Just to give you, in case you're wondering where this is in Torah, Machshava Moelet, it's a phrase from Torah. The Zohar says that when you show a radiant face to Shemayim, Shemayim shows the radiant face to you. Hashem is our shadow. In the Chabad tradition, it's very, very common to say Trach gut, bet sein gut. This comes, I believe, from Tzemach Tzedek originally, but it's repeated constantly. If you think good, it will be good. But it doesn't just mean think like hopeful. It means wire that in, that new reality. I'm a partner with God. So the moon is meant to rise to its full potential. That's the promise in the Torah, that the moon will rise back to its full potential. We are meant to rise back to our full potential, not diminished, victim, traumatized, hardworking, faithful people in bodies. We're meant to rise to a divine light, and that should shine forth from us. And that comes through tapping into our essence. And Hasidus allows us to do that. Hasidus that is backed up by empowered action. Hasidus isn't meant to be just learned. Hasidus has to be integrated from Chachma, Bina, and into Das. Das already changes your emotions, changes your brain wiring, changes your reality. So just a little bit more about this, and I'll end. And if there are a few questions, I can take them. The Rebbe quoted the Baal Shem Tov in this particular Sikha on miracles. And again, I want to say, Teva, Teva, Teva. How many times the Rebbe said we must make miracles by our Teva. And it starts with going beyond 100 to 101. But what? Once you go to 101, you're not done. The Baal Shem Tov said that, the Rebbe quotes the Baal Shem Tov who said that what is a miracle? A miracle is something that breaks Teva for the first time. But once the first time is done, now that's Teva. So now what are you going to do? And that's your new platform. So you've stepped out into the unknown, the unexpected, the let's see what happens. I'm scared, but okay. And something happens, and now that's in your wheelhouse. Now you know you can do that. Now, what's the next thing? What's the next level? How could you get closer to Hashem? Could you get more out of your comfort zone? Could you have that deeper conversation? Could you delve deeper into learning? Could you pray for a miracle and expect it to happen? Because we don't do things on our own, even though it's our teva. Now, I want to say this about a tzaddik. A tzaddik, we know that, well, maybe we don't, but this is a very core concept in Hasidus, that Moshe Rabbeinu was a neshama klalit, central soul, a universal soul, Adam and Chava as well. In every generation, there's a central soul, the universal soul, like the Moses of the generation, which is passed down through this leader, the one, the Nasi, the leader of the generation, Mashiach being the final one. So what the Torah says about that central soul is that each of our souls are included in that soul like cells in a body. So we're part of that, so that the leader of the generation The Moshe is made up, Hanasi hu hakol, that the Rebbe said that often, that he's made up, he's comprised of all of our souls. And that's why this relationship is symbiotic. That's why we need a king, just like we need a brain. It's not that the king tells us what to do. That's a first stage. But the brain also reflects itself in all of the cells. Each cell becomes the maximum of what it's supposed to be. The body's supernatural. So the same thing with Mashiach. And likewise, we have that central soul. We have a spark of that soul, a spark of Moshe, a spark of Mashiach within the core of our own souls. And when we activate that, Rabbi Yitzchak Ginsburg says, when we activate that spark of our soul, that's the supernatural part of ourselves, the divine part of ourselves, it actually activates that general soul of Mashiach, allowing Mashiach to do his job. So it's symbiotic, it's holographic. Mashiach is working through us. Waiting is not the right thing to do. But what would you do if your job was to make a difference in the world, to tell the world about Mashiach? So again, to make it real, not just to say Mashiach is coming, but let's explore what's possible. Let's connect to Hashem. Let's go deep into Chassidus, and we'll have a new experience of consciousness. And that is how it works. And then that filters down. If you learn deeper, you learn deeper, you learn deeper. There was a time when I only saw the surface, when I couldn't feel deeper levels. I mean, I wonder, I've asked other people this. It's interesting. So I don't know if people can't raise their hands, but I don't know if you can type yes, but I'd love to know how many of you feel that you've had the experience that you have abilities that you didn't used to have. Like maybe you can feel another person's feelings from a distance, or maybe you can sense energy, or maybe you can see something, or maybe you have intuition. You know, you'll ask a question and you'll have a little inner voice answering you that you didn't have before. Yes, somebody's saying yes, becoming divine. I'm not surprised. Anyone else? Yes. Yes, Sarah, Shoshana, Linda, yes. Anyone else? This is
I can't type, but I can't type, but I can tell you that over the years, and still my perception of Torah and learning has totally been transformed.
Yes.
Because of Hasidic learning. Hasidut is what nourishes my soul. And that's what I have to pursue. Yeah.
This is here to nourish the soul.
I'm a Sephardic girl, a Sephardic Jew from the Abu Hatzira family. We have our tzaddikim too. But I have to say that Chabad, I know Chabad since I was an orphan at age 10. I went to Bet Rivka school and I learned all about the rabbis and the miracles. And I was always attached to it. But then I learned the Tanya. And I have to tell you, the Hasidic approach really sustained my soul. That's all I need. More and more, and like you say, in depth.
Like the Rebbe said, I didn't used to understand this. I'm watching all the yeses. This is a phenomenon. This is happening, my friends. This is happening in the world. So if you thought it was just you, now you know that it's a phenomenon. It's an evolutionary step for human beings, not only happening to Jews. The problem is that we still see ourselves from the past. Our individual selves, our own nature, that's our own past, right? And we also see ourselves collectively from the past. So that instead of taking the leadership, instead of stepping up and sharing on whatever level, and getting together with others, if you want to brainstorm about how to do that, we're still hunkering down. For the most part, I'm not saying people aren't doing projects, but we're meant to be a light to the nations. There is no leadership in the world. And the fact that Hashem has taken away all of the amazing leaders, tzaddikim, why could that be? I mean, I'm not trying to explain Hashem, but it's obvious that there's a leadership vacuum. And when there's a vacuum, when there's a place when you find that there are no people, no leaders, you have to try to be a leader. And that's, again, goes back to what the Rebbe said in that original Sikha from 31 years ago, where he said, it's up to you. It's up to you. May there be 1 or 2 or 3 people, 10 stubborn people, and 1 or 2 or 3 people who will know what needs to be done and how it should be done. So that's where we need to go. And what does it mean to be a light to the nations? It means teaching the Sheva Mitzvahs. It means meaning talking out of love. The Torah is for everyone. Geula is for everyone. It doesn't mean that 613 mitzvahs are for everyone. It doesn't mean everyone's a Jew. But there are many concepts, there are many teachings from the Torah that are very not known. That all about the idea of a ger toshav, even in our times, there is such a thing as a relationship between a non-Jew and the Jewish people that changes their status in Torah. that basically they can become part of the Jewish mission to bring Geula now. And we are activators, we have to be activators. And to be activators, we have to be activated. So that it is 101 to 102 to 103. And this is not steps. 1 to 100, to use that muscle of reviewing the learning, 1 to 100 is steps, one step at a time. We all know that phrase. 100 to 101 is a quantum leap. And 101 to 102 is a bigger quantum leap. And 102 to 103 is a bigger quantum leap. You're all telling me you've got powers. Use your powers. Get together with other people who have powers. Train yourself and ask Hashem to give you more powers. Start dialoguing if you're not doing it already. See if you hear any answers. Ask questions, see if you hear answers. So anyway, there's a lot more to talk about, but that's basically enough for now. And I guess that's what I want to give over. It is Rosh Chodesh Nissan is starting. And now we are receiving, just like on Rosh Hashanah again. So we started with a little, I guess, deeper connection meditation. Let's just close our eyes again and just ask Hashem, each in our own way, help me to receive this miraculous power and potential that's flooding in now. Help me to know that I am not a standalone or even part of a family or community only. I am intimately connected with this cosmic structure known as Yaakov and his descendants. I'm a cell in a divine living organism. And the entirety of the brain is inside of me. I just have to get in touch with it, let it flow. And as I do that, I'm activating light into the whole entire system. Everyone now is the center. That's the big secret. Everyone now is the center. We have been taught everything we need. Now we need to go learn it in a manner of Chachma, Bina, and Das. We need to stop allowing leadership vacuum. We need to stop letting bad people who hate God and hate Torah tell us that they're protecting us. Okay, I'm sorry if that ruffles anyone's feathers, but I think it's really important. We're meant to be a light unto the nation. If we don't pick and eat that fruit, it's rotting on the vine. Rotting doesn't look and feel good. It's dangerous to human life. So what if you're the one? Well, the Rambam says we have to view the entire world as if it's in the balance between good and not good, and to know that our one action, our one good action, our one good word, or even our one good thought can tip the scales into redemption. Paraphrasing. But my opinion is it's got to come from a deeper place. It's not just doing another mitzvah. If it was just another mitzvah after thousands of years of mitzvahs and torture, and persecution, love and loyalty. I'll never forget a picture of a woman in the Holocaust with her children sitting at a table dead with a tray of salami in front of them. It's enough, it's not enough mitzvahs, but it's enough. I'm not making this up on my own either. The Rebbe said that the level of mitzvahs done needed to bring Geula is done. And that was already 30 plus years ago. Not 30 plus, 30 years ago. So now it's up to our avoda. It's up to our moving out of our previous nature. And I just want to give one more mashal, and then maybe we can take a couple questions and then close. So there are mashalim for birth. This is a birth process. And the Torah talks about it this way. So what is birth? Birth is the baby is growing in the womb and it's kind of staying the same, but it's getting bigger and it's developing more. That's the Jewish people in Gullus. We're in the womb. When it comes time to get out of the womb, who wants to get out of the womb? That's our comfort zone. It's what we know. So it takes these vast forces of contraction. Can you imagine what it feels like to the baby? The heart's pounding and the womb is constricting and there's all this pressure and the mother feels the mother. And then there's a more constriction as the baby moves through the birth canal, tight, stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. And it gets stronger and stronger until when the pushing, that moment happens, complete shift. That's one mashal. Here's the second mashal. A chicken hatching from an egg. The baby chick is growing, growing, growing. The egg provides everything it needs. And then all of a sudden the shell starts cracking. One little crack, another little crack. Imagine how disruptive that is for the baby chick. And then it gets scared and it's probably trying to peck its way out because it's too tight. And then the shell is cracking even more as it's pecking. So it's very move toward freedom is causing this breakage. And do we identify with the shell, or are we the birth that's emerging? Is it the shell breaking because the shell has to break? Or is it the birth, the new that's coming? Where is your identity sitting? And the third mushal is the caterpillar to butterfly. I believe Hashem created it for this time. The caterpillar literally gets wrapped in a cocoon, this tight sheath. Tightness is the mushal here, strong theme, and it melts down into gel, literally melts down into gel. And it's same DNA when it's completely melted down. It's same DNA has there's certain cells that have been named imaginal cells that direct it to turn its gel into a butterfly. So I want to say we can't resist what's happening. We're never going back to the way it was because we're getting born. So what does that mean to you? What does that look like? What do you have to do about it? What support do you need for it? What learning do you want to delve into to help you with that? And then there's the phoenix, which burns but doesn't die. You know, these are the mashalim of what we're going through now. And I believe each one represents a higher level of consciousness. Consciousness is the key to everything. The mind rules over the heart. What part of the mind though? Who are you really? What depth of you do you identify with it? Is it the surface, the story of your life, your troubles, your accomplishments? Is it your, the idea that you have a soul, that feeling of beyond now and then? Is it the deepest self that is, a deeper self that exists beyond time and space? That's right in you right now, hovering around you. Or is it that you're literally a portion of God? Chelik elikami mal mamish. Quoting the Alter Rebbe, I would not dare to make this up. So who are you? And that's really the most important question. The second question being, what are you going to do about that? All right. Happy Nissan, everybody. Thank you for being with me. And if there's any quick question.
Thank you, Shifra. Oh my gosh, that was just so beautiful. And your mushals really just help us understand where we are and where we could be, and was incredibly motivational. So Mirtashem, all of us are going to stretch ourselves that much more, whether it's today, whether this week, Mirtashem in the month of Nissan. And we really, really appreciate those words of encouragement. It was beautiful and phenomenal. It is 9 o'clock. We try to keep it to an hour. So I'm sorry. I wish we could take some questions.
Adele,
but
Adele,
yeah,
Adele. There's two people that raised their hands. Let the Chaya and Cheryl. Let them just ask their questions. But I just want to mention something just quickly. Linda, you didn't send me the shiur. You didn't share it with me. Lind?
I have sent it to you, Nomi.
Okay, Baruch Hashem. Okay, thank you so much. I'm sorry.
I'm not sure their hands are raised for questions or beforehand. I think Shifra was asking people to raise their hands. Are those questions?
Oh,
yes. Right. I did ask. Say yes. It's amazing about your daughter, Susan. Exosomes are amazing too. A lot of miraculous healing modalities that of course are being suppressed, but we need to know about them.
So it's just know me. I just want to tell you that I'm so glad that you agreed finally to speak.
It's not my nature to get up early.
I have to tell you that you're exquisite, and you're exquisite as exquisite and as great to frum women as I know that you are very comfortable in that other world. But let me tell you, everything you shared today was just so beautiful and so exquisite. And you should continue to share this stuff, because we all need to hear it over and over and over again. Because exactly like you said, we have to step up to the plate. We have to open up new doors. We cannot sit anymore in the same doors that we sat. We've been thousands of years waiting for Geula, thousands of years, and it hasn't worked. And now's the time to step up. And I hope that we can all unite, even though everybody does their own little thing, that we can all unite in Kavod Shamayim, in creating tremendous Kavod Shamayim. So Bezrat Hashem, thank you so much.
Amen, amen. I just want to say one quick thing, and I told Naomi knows that she was very persistent. I so appreciate it. It was actually wonderful, but I didn't want to get up early. I don't usually speak to from groups that's because years ago, it's a lesson for me, but years ago, 12, 15 years ago, I was asked a few times to speak from venues, Chabad houses or whatever. And I talked the way I talk and people didn't get it. There were usually 100 people, there 2-3 would think I was like the best thing since sliced bread, and everybody else would walk away. I completely disassociated, turned off. And the fact that people are relating, I want you guys to notice that's a shift in consciousness. At the end of the day, it all comes down to consciousness. Torah is about consciousness, because once the consciousness is fully imbued, there's a state of being called Tavuna, which the Mittler Rebbe talks about, where the brain, that you have learned something so deeply and integrated through action and meditation and so forth and speech, that it's saturated into the brain, the physical brain. The brain is physical, the mind is not. So the Torah learning goes into the mind, but when it goes into the brain, which happens when you review and learn deeply enough, it actually rewires things, and it actually changes the emotions and the body and creates a paradigm shift. It changes reality. So that's the level that the Rebbe is pointing to, learning Inyan Mashiach Geula in a manner of Chachma Bin and Das. And I see that people are ready for it now. So let's just make it happen. Let's make it happen on all levels. And let's consider ourselves the new government of Israel and the new leadership in the world. And what does that mean? And now how do we make that real? Okay, thanks, guys.
Thank you. Thank you so much again, Shifra. We hope to hear from you again.
To a totally joyful, miraculous Nissan.
Thank you so much. This was
Thank you so
amazing.
much.
Thank you for
Miracle.
putting that in front of us.
Can I make
What
a
a
comment?
vision.